Welcome back to the next episode of the Mass Business Podcast. My name is Matt Ward. I am your host, and I'm so happy to be bringing you our guest today, Jenny Belanger. Jenny is the CEO of Jenny B Designs, a web design studio for coaches and service providers who want to up-level their online presence. She uses a mix of marketing strategies and conversion design to create beautiful websites that book more clients and make more sales. She's a mom of 2 kids, ages 5 and 6, and loves the Peloton. She's got 400 plus rides. Jenny's joining us from Reading, Mass, to dig in to how she built her web design business. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome to the Mass Business Podcast, where small business owners, also known as risk takers, share their stories about the growth of their business and themselves. Our interviews and our content is focused on growing a small business and understanding networking and referrals. I say it all the time, and I'll say it again today. You never know where your next referral will come from. All right, there you go. We're high-fiving the world with Jenny B from Jenny B Designs. Jenny Belanger, welcome to the show, Jenny.
Oh, thanks so much, Matt. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome. We're happy to have you. So tell the audience who's listening on their favorite, podcast platform or maybe even watching here on YouTube, what it is you do at Jenny B Designs.
I love working with entrepreneurs. As one myself, I know what they need, and I'm a web designer, and I love to design beautiful, but more importantly, strategic designs so that you can book more clients and make more sales.
Right. So, having come from the web agency world myself, having successfully exited, as I like to tell people, I always knew that people came to us for SEO. They came to us for more clients. But the reality was, at the end of the day, it wasn't ranking high that they needed. It was just more clients. And so conversion was a big part of that. And I think too often as small business owners, we get stuck in what we think we need rather than what we really need, right? Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about your journey. How long have you been in business?
I've been in business almost a year and a half for myself.
Okay, so you started pretty much right during the pandemic.
Shortly after, yes.
Oh, wow. That was a risk, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess my first question is, what do you know now that you didn't know then?
What do I know now? I know now that I need to dedicate a lot of time to making relationships. Relationships are what moves my business forward. And I had no idea when I started. I came from a business background, marketing, finance, and I knew everything that it took to run the business, but I didn't know about the relationship building and the networking and how big that is.
Isn't that something like, I had no concept of it either when I started my business back in 2002 and really started digging into it in like 2005 and then throughout the late 2000s. And to be honest with you, like the networking, the relationship building as a whole is what saved my business in the downturn of the economy in 2008. I got an idea from somebody in a business peer group that I was in that basically saved my company. And when I implemented it, had I not implemented, I probably would have been out of business. Mm-hmm. And so I'll never forget when I was 18, my grandfather was a judge for the Social Security Administration in DC. He said, it's all about who you know. And I was like, no, it's kind of what you know, because if you meet somebody and you sound stupid, it's dumb. It's not going to work. And he's like, boy, let me tell you, it's who you know.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have doubled down earlier in life on those relationships, just friendships, life friendships and relationships. And once you get into business, you meet all these great people. And they teach you so much, right? I mean,
yeah.
What would you say some of the takeaways are from the relationships that you've built with others?
Well, just relationships I built with other designers and people, similar to myself, all the tools of the trade, things that kind of help me run my business, and then just how to manage life and business. that's what I've learned a lot from others. Because when you start business for yourself, you don't think it's going to be what it is. Then you find yourself like trying to juggle everything. And I've learned a lot from others about how to maintain balance and trying to maintain balance, which is super important.
So that's so interesting you bring that up. My latest book, The High Five Effect, was written because I feel like people left the corporate world because they wanted three things: more money, more time, and more freedom. Mm-hmm. And they don't get them early on in the business, right? No. And so now for me, I've achieved those things. And the most important thing for me personally and professionally is the freedom part. Doing what I want, when I want, where I want, and how I want. And so I'm very strategic about the clients that I bring on for me. In the book, I interviewed 50 small business owners talking about they were picking all these, their clients were coming to them, but they weren't pushing any of them away. And the primary reason was they needed the money in startup mode to get through what's called survival stage and into security stage, which is this predictable amount of recurring revenue. And so we often don't think about, the adverse effect of some of those relationships that we take on. And the stuff that you're learning in the first year and a half, I didn't learn that for 10 years, Jenny.
Yeah.
Like you're in accelerated mode right now, which is awesome. Like you're in light speed mode when it comes to relationship building and learning, because I think when those people are teaching you, they're sharing these things. Work-life balance, I was like, what was that? The first 10 years I was in business, I was like, what is that? But it sounds like you have that, right?
I do. I've worked hard. I've only learned about it through my relationship with others, and I'm in a lot of groups where women entrepreneurs talk about this because it is so hard. And I hear you, because I feel like it wasn't talked about, or I wasn't in the world, but I feel like it wasn't as talked about as it is today. And it's so important, and it's such a big part.
Isn't that, you think maybe that's a spotlight on mental health and also working for employers that overwork you and things like that? People are not looking for that life anymore. And work-life balance, I think, is to a degree, it's a buzzword because it can mean many, many different things to many people. But I think it just, to me, the definition of work-life balance is choice. It's decision. Is it deliberate, right? Mm-hmm. And so I had a conversation with somebody just yesterday about this. It was like through Facebook Messenger, and they were asking me about this idea of doing more fun activities than just working. And they have like 2 jobs or 3 jobs. And I said, well, freedom and personal time is a very deliberate choice. Yeah. It's a very deliberate decision, and you must protect it with your life. Like you have to not allow other people to steal your time. Yeah. How do you do that?
I was going to say, so I'm organized, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I organize my free time. I find that planning allows me to have more freedom, as odd as it sounds. But I need to look at my week and say, I want to do something for me on this block. I put it in, and I have to stick to that. And that gives me more freedom.
So that's interesting you say that, because I'm a member of the Freedom Boat Club, which is like this rental, like you join the club and then you can take boats out and you just pay for gas. You don't have to maintain them. You don't have to clean them. It's super cool, right? I don't have to trailer the boat. I don't have to have insurance. Yeah. And so it's super nice. And I can take them out pretty much anywhere in the country where there's a club. And they have reciprocal privileges. What I found over the years of having that was that if I actually didn't schedule boat days into my calendar, I wouldn't use the service. And so I love the fact that you're saying, look, planning makes way more sense when you want to actually have more time. It allows for much more freedom. And I think that's such a huge nugget for people, because I'm completely disorganized. The secret here, Jenny, is that I just took my arm and pushed everything off this desk and onto the floor.
No, I can't.
But I'll tell you this little quick story. I hired a professional organizer once. She came into my office, and I wanted like filing and a system built. Like, what's the system? Where does stuff go? and she was doing the initial intake, and she was asking me questions, which is what a great service provider will always do. And she said, "Okay, let me ask you: do you ever like you put things over here? I see and everything. Do you ever put them on the floor?" And I looked at her and I went, "You can do that?" So I started building piles on the floor.
No, that's
That
awesome.
was not what was supposed to happen.
No.
But I have learned when it comes to like my personal time and the freedom that you talk about, that if we don't schedule those days off, that we get calendar creep and things will go into other days.
Yeah, yeah. You said you schedule your boat rides. This summer, I wanted to go to the beach with the kids. And if I didn't schedule those days, we would think about going to the beach, but never do it. So put it in, going to the beach on these days.
And how do you not have work guilt?
Well, I tell myself I don't work full time. I take Fridays. Today is actually Friday, but it's my family day, so it's not
Yeah.
my working day.
Yeah.
So I rearrange my schedule so that I can work those 4 days, and Friday is usually my fun day.
You
And
know
I get to
what?
do
So same thing. Fridays are my fun day because I go ATVing
Mhm.
in my side by side, and I do it on 3-day weekend type of thing. Last weekend was Labor Day. We're recording this right after Labor Day, and so I did 410 miles through the woods of New England.
Oh,
It
nice.
was awesome, and I try not to work any Friday. I
Hmm.
try not to work Mondays, but that hasn't been working lately. So what happens with me is I get the project. I'll get a project that's like a big project, like the book, and then I'll work on the days I really shouldn't work. But I have, to me, it's a choice, right? So
Hmm.
it's not just a I have to, it's a I get to. And
Yeah.
so
Okay.
I'm saying I get to produce this great book, and so if I want to get it out in October of 2021, I'm going to need to work on this on a couple extra days. And so I buckle down and do it. And that's how I do it. So I'm excited to
Mm.
hear that you may not have conquered it, but you've got a system in place all within 18 months. And that is so powerful because that's going to allow you to tweak that, as I wrote in the book, shitterate it. Right? You get to shitterate your process and your system to as you grow.
Mhm.
What does the future hold for Jenny B Designs? Is it going to be a boutique agency with 1, 2 people, or is it going to be more like a bigger agency? What's your growth plans?
I want to just stay myself. I want to. It's funny you say that because I do feel like I've just had this like massive change over the last 18 months, and now I'm in a good place. And now I just want to take on clients that I love to work with, and just do the projects that I love to do, and that's that. And so I'm not looking to grow. Maybe have a junior designer help me a little bit, but I want to just have the business myself and work with clients that I love. That's my goal.
Where does that come from? This guy. I mean, the subtitle of my book is how to do business with people who bring you joy. That's what you basically just said.
I did. I did.
So it took me 20 years to get there. Where does that come from in 18 months for you?
I don't know. A couple of months ago, I felt like I was in a transition point where I could, grow, and keep busy. But that's not why I decided to do this. I decided to do this because I really love designing and I just want to be content with what I
Hmm.
have and enjoy my everyday. And so I made that decision, and that's how I'm going to move forward.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
What has been one of the bigger challenges as you've grown in the first 18 months?
Perfecting my processes, making sure that, I work with a lot of with clients on projects, making sure that I have everything streamlined and making sure that, everything was organized and then just juggling everything that I have going on and finding a rhythm. And I think I finally have found that.
Hmm.
And I'm just, moving forward from there.
Now, would you consider yourself to be one of those lifelong learners? Do you read a lot? I mean, you mentioned earlier before we started recording that you kind of love my bookshelf.
I do. I love reading. I love watching YouTubes, like
Oh yeah.
tutorials, especially with web design. Like, I love learning new platforms, and I probably shouldn't be, devoting. I'm a WordPress designer, so I should probably
Yep.
stay in my lane. But I love learning about everything. So yeah, I devour information.
So talk to me about these business books that you've read. What are some of the great business books that you can share with others who are listening on their podcast platforms or watching on YouTube? What business books have you read that you like?
Well, Donald Miller,
Oh,
StoryBrand, of
yeah.
course. That's how I do a lot of my designs and when I work with writers and things like that. And then probably my other one is Profit First. I read that early on in my journey, and when I wasn't paying myself and wasn't putting any money aside for profit, and I implemented that pretty quick, and so that's how I run my books. So those are my two good books that I
Shameless
really like.
plug. Mike
Yeah.
McElowitz, the author of Profit First, has endorsed my book on the cover.
Oh, cool!
Yeah.
I
So,
love
and
that.
Profit First is a fantastic book.
Yeah.
It changed the game of business ownership for me years ago. And
Oh,
it's just one of those things, folks, that if you want that first thing I talked about, the more money, more time, more freedom, if you want the more money, pick up a copy of Profit First and start implementing it. You don't have to even implement it to the exact T that Mike recommends. I don't, but
me
every
neither.
single month I swipe my profit to a profit account.
Yep.
And when people hear that I literally have 19 or 20 bank accounts, they're like, "What? That's crazy." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" I take Mike McAllowitz's Profit First, mix it with Dave Ramsey's envelope system, and I
Oh,
implement them both in my business and in my personal life. And ever since I started doing those things, everything has gone right with finances in my life. My credit score skyrocketed. I was paying bills on. I used to not pay bills on time, not because I didn't have the money, but because I wasn't organized.
mhm.
Right now, I automate everything so
Yeah.
that bills just get paid. Like literally, the mortgage gets automatically paid. The car payments are automatically paid. Like once you can figure out how to do that, and it's a small step process, then everything else starts to align. And it's that's the beauty of this whole thing is that once you get, I the book I wrote talks about doing business with people that bring you joy, and it raises your own joy. But think about what it does when you actually have the funds to pay your own bills. How you feel now versus when you don't
Yeah.
have the funds, right? And you
Yeah.
start being. I started using this term fiscally responsible. And I would say to myself, is that the fiscally responsible thing to do? And
Yeah.
this, sometimes, Jenny, I would still cave and still do it,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
But, I mean, it wasn't, at the time I bought my Peloton, it wasn't the fiscally responsible thing to do. It might have been the physically responsible thing to do, but it wasn't the
Yeah.
fiscally because those things aren't cheap. But,
Yeah.
and so like I just continue, even like on the first or second of every month, I swipe my profit, right? Like
Hmm.
he talks about in the book. And this month I was out riding the trails and I didn't do it. And so I think it was on the 8th of the month I swiped it. And I was like, okay, I got to swipe. But I get all
Yeah.
excited
Yeah.
when,
Yeah.
and then on the quarters, you get to take your distribution from the profit account. And it's like, cha-ching. And when he says in the book, you're not allowed to spend it back on your business, I'm like, that's awesome. I'm going to spend it on my ATV. Like
Yeah.
and it just feels good,
Yeah.
Tell me
Those.
how has that stuff changed your life? How has business books and business education changed your business life and your personal life?
Um. Well, I mean, I working for yourself, it's different than running a business that's full of employees. So I had to learn like everything that goes into running my business. So that like just learning everything from the ground up and just reading, not just business books, but self help like the whole balancing things and maintaining, your mental capacity and just understanding how to have that balance. That's done a lot for both my business and my personal life, managing the kids.
It sounds like organization and planning are a big strength of yours.
Mm, yes.
They're not mine. I have to work really hard at planning something. I'm usually a much more like, let's just go. Who cares? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's the planning all about?
Yeah.
I literally have had speaking gigs where I'm supposed to fly somewhere and I'm not buying the ticket in enough time
Oh,
and stuff like that,
I
right?
can't. Yeah, I can't.
What would you say? I mean, obviously those are some unique strengths, but what would you say your unique strengths are as a whole?
I would say, obviously, my organization, but my ability to get along with others. I'm an Enneagram 9, if anyone is familiar
So,
with the
what
Enneagram.
before we go any farther, tell everybody what Enneagram is.
Oh, well, I can't do it justice, but it is a system where you are defined by 9 numbers and your personality fits into one of those 9 categories.
Got it.
So for me, I'm a 9, and the 9 is called the peacemaker. And we have the ability to get along with anyone and see both sides of the story. So I find myself able to, be in a conversation and understand where they're coming from and also share where I'm coming from. And we don't like to have conflict. So I guess
So
that's
you're like a
conflict.
business therapist almost.
Kind of. You could say that. Yeah. I do have clients who tell me a lot of things. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I mean, I never taken the Enneagram test, so I don't know if I'm a 9. I can tend to see both sides of the story. I definitely don't like conflict, kind of run from that.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know that I'm necessarily a peacemaker either, right? I'm not
Yeah.
going to, sometimes I'll try to bring two parties together and kind of make peace, but other times I'm just like, there's conflict there, so I'll just go the other way, you know?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
tough. Like when I had my agency, I had 8 employees. So, when you have 8 employees, there's always conflict. It might
Right.
be between workload or time, schedules or what, whose cubicle is where. All, I can't think of the conflicts we actually had on the team because it was so long ago, but I'm
Mhm.
sure that there were, I usually just delegated them to my GM Mark
That
or
works. Yeah.
my HR person Carol or something. I'd be like, "Can you
Yeah.
handle this?" Because I
Yeah.
don't. It's not my thing. Would you say that others recognize your strengths in you?
Yeah, I would say so for sure. I think that people recognize that I'm easygoing and, easy to work with and kind. I get that a lot too. And I try to incorporate kindness in everything that I do.
I think Jenny, we had one conversation a long time ago. It was like a 1-to-1, but there's something that I recognize with you is you have this really calming effect to you, right?
Hmm.
And so it's confidence mixed with this the calmness that makes people who might be freaking out about their web design or their marketing or their growth or whatever, that when you talk to them, they just feel the confidence coming out of you because you can calm them down from that, and you have a very calming presence, which I think is a great attribute. I can see what you say about people recognize that you're nice or whatever, because you're super easy to get along with, like you said, the Enneagram thing, and
Yeah.
that's noticeable immediately. That's a huge attribute when it comes to networking and especially referrals, right? It's because
Hmm.
that you know people refer who they know, like, trust, and care about, right?
Hmm.
If you're nice, they're going to be nice to you, right? It's the reciprocity effect. And that's a super valuable personality trait to have. I think that's fantastic that you've been able to tap into that for sure.
Yeah.
Has it been
Yeah.
hard for you?
No, I've always just had this way, and it's just combining my organization with this kindness and this easygoing that actually has been really wonderful working with clients. I just really enjoy it.
Yeah. So, talk to me in the growth of your business overall, not including industry specific software. What software would you recommend other people listening or watching on YouTube check out that could help their business grow? So, not WordPress, but something else.
So I'm all about the integrations. So I think
Yeah.
anything we can automate and put in place in the back end. So a scheduler, like scheduler is Main thing that you
Which
got
one
to
do
have.
you
You don't want
use?
I actually use HoneyBook, so I have my
Okay.
CRM, so I use a
Yep.
scheduler there. But I used to use Calendly. There are so many good
Yep.
ones. That's like
Yep.
something super simple that will save you so much time and effort. That's a big one.
So I love that. I want to talk about the scheduler for a second because I send my scheduler out to everybody. It's how we book the podcast. It's how I book one-to-one calls. I find it super, super easy to use. My mentor, on the other hand, says he refuses to use them and finds them impersonal.
Mm-hmm.
I find that challenging because I feel like the back and forth is much more challenging. I will sometimes, if I know that my calendar is pretty booked up because I have freedom days or whatever, I will ask for someone else's calendar link so that I can find the spot.
Yeah.
What is your feeling on that? Do you ever find pushback on using a calendar link?
No. And when someone doesn't have it for me, I always get a little bit frustrated because I know, oh, I'm going to have to go back and forth. Or it also makes me think about their business systems. And I'm like, oh, if they don't have a calendar, like what else don't they have to help automate their lives and make their business work a little bit better? So it stops me to think when someone doesn't have it. Yeah.
I have always tried to automate my business in some form or fashion every single week with a small piece of something. It may not be as dramatic as a new piece of software that is the calendar scheduling tool. It might be just a small thing inside of Zapier
Yeah.
that improves my life just a little bit. So recently I recently connected the book purchase, if somebody pre-buys the book in the pre-sale timeframe, to a Zoom registration to talk about the book and the launch party, right? And so
Cool.
like that's all done in Zapier,
Yeah.
right? Otherwise that would be super manual, right? There's a number of Zapier things and automation things that we use with the podcast and promotion of the podcast and things like that so that we don't have to have manual involvement. And for those of you that don't know what Zapier is, we'll make sure we list it in the show notes. It's zapier.com. And what it does is it basically connects two pieces of software that weren't really originally meant to connect together. It's like this connector tool. And you can get a free account, and you can also have a paid account. But a free account can make your life very easy. It can take a calendar booking, for example, and somehow connect it in Zoom or send you an email or put it in Trello or maybe in HoneyBook or whatever your CRM is. So there's a lot that it can do that way. So that's cool. That's a great share. And we always like to share those types of things, like the book, Donald Miller Story Brand book, right? We want to make sure that the audience is seeing and hearing from you what it was that it took for you to grow your business, right? And so I asked you before what the biggest challenge was, what you didn't know then that you know now, right? But what do you think the biggest what do you think the biggest impact has been in the first 18 months of growing your business that has helped you get to this point now? What one thing has impacted you in a way that's helped you get clients or become as successful or even as specific as you are now?
I would say a lot of it came from a group that I'm in. I'm in Pepper Lane, which
Oh
is a
yeah.
group for moms or moms adjacent. And through that group, I have met wonderful connections who have become clients or who I have become clients of who helped me with I took an Enneagram course and I learned so much about that. And I took an overwhelm course and I've learned so much from every single one of the members in that group. I would say that group has pretty much changed my business.
So folks, if you're listening, if you qualify for Pepper Lane, it might be something to check out. And if you don't, then maybe check out a similar type group, CEO peer advisory group. There's one called the Alternative Board, also called TAB. There's a number of those in Massachusetts. I was a member of them for 10 years when I had my web agency. Electra Gavoni runs TAB Boston Northwest. That's a great organization. If you're involved in networking groups, some of the people in the networking group can help you as well. You can create your own little mastermind. I think there's a lot of value in that. I mean, I was in TAB when I got the idea that saved my business. It came from a tab member. And so even if you have to pay to be in these groups, this is not a payment. This is an investment, and it pays off long term. Jenny's talking about it right now, about the value that it's had on her business, and that's great to hear. Surround yourself with great people. Jim Rohn said you are the equal of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So just keep leveling that up, and that's that. If you want to have a joyful business, surround yourself with joyful people, not Debbie Downers, right? The people that are always complaining that they don't have enough business or where are they going to get it from. Then you give them a referral and they don't make the calls that they need to make, things like that. So
absolutely.
Super awesome. Yeah. So, Jenny, if people want to reach out, I know you're big into networking. It's the relationships that have mattered. We did a 1-to-1. That's how we first connected. So if somebody wants to reach out and schedule a 1-to-1 with you, or they want to learn more about what an Enneagram 9 is, or they want to learn about Pepper Lane and come visit with you, or they want to hire you at Jenny B Designs to help up-level their website and get some more conversions, how would they reach out to you? What would that look like?
You can follow me on Instagram at the Jenny B Designs, or you can come visit my website, jennyb-designs.com, or you can send me an email, jenny@jennybdesigns.com.
Great. We're going to have all those links in the show notes so you guys can check them out on our social media links, on the YouTube channel, and on the website, massbusinesspodcast.com. Really enjoyed having you on the show, Jenny. Thank you so much for joining us. And I've learned a lot just talking to you, and I love the success that you're having in the first 18 months. I can't wait to see where the next 18 months is going to go. And be careful that you're going to double, because maybe you double in revenue, but not double in client size. How about that? Because
that sounds good.
That'll steal your freedom. You don't want that to happen.
That's right.
Folks, make sure that you subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and smash that subscribe button on YouTube. We would love to have you be a subscriber over there. We're trying to get our subscriber links up, so make sure you check us out over there. Carry on in the comments as well, both on YouTube and on social media. Jenny will be monitoring those to make sure that she can answer all your questions about anything you might have, even if you want to connect. And until next time, folks, don't forget to live happy, smile a lot, and high five everyone around you.
Up this morning, gonna grab myself a smile.
Thank you for listening to the Mass Business Podcast, where we focus on growing a small business and understanding networking and referrals. Don't forget to like on your favorite platform and share out this podcast. This show has been produced by Heather Grant, music by Celtic Kelly, all rights reserved. I'm your host, professional speaker, author, and word-of-mouth referral consultant, Matt Ward. Don't forget to live happy, smile a lot, and high five everyone around you.
I'm feeling all right. High five the world. Yeah, yeah, yeah. High five the world. Make a difference today. High five the world. What a thing to say. Do you feel what I'm telling you? There's really nothing to it. It's just an attitude.